Phapano Phasha. I'm really honored to have you on Dope Conversations. I'm very nervous about today's conversation, but I hope that it will go well. I have to start by asking, how are you doing? And are you comfortable to start off with the conversation we were having off camera just now? Unjani sisi wami, uyaphila?
No, I'm great, thank you, and thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah.
I cannot complain, and yeah, I'm comfortable. We can continue.
First of all, your MAGA hat. We know the MAGA hat to belong to Donald Trump, Make America Great Again. Yours says Make Africa Great Again. What does that mean to you?
It means repositioning the continent. It means educating our people about who we are and where we come from, the greatness of Africa, the fact that what is called your European great scholars like your Euclid, your Socrates, they all studied here in Africa. They studied in Egypt. So Africa is what I consider to be the center of civilization. It's just a pity that despite the Europeans who came here, took everything that we had, we have not been able to reclaim it. You know, the great mathematicians, they studied here, engineers. So for me, it's about us as a continent reclaiming who we are. I think, this week I just wrote an article about South Africa in particular and our participation in BRICS. The very fact that we are being left behind, despite the fact that, a country like India, which was also which was also colonized. It's if you look at the GDP, if you look at the projection in terms of its economy, if you look at people of Indian descent, how well they are doing globally, and the fact that they're overtaking multinationals.
Yeah.
So I think we have an opportunity, to start engaging amongst ourselves and to also start holding our leaders accountable, because they had an opportunity, and they still have an opportunity to reposition the continent. Unfortunately, many are not doing that. So I think that's the whole idea, to make our continent.
MAGA is a movement. It's a party. Is it just a brand to say, guys, this is conscientization?
No, it's a brand. In fact, there is a person who is who is responsible for this brand.
Yeah.
Yes, but I think, with people like yourself who hold this, you're quite influential. You have.
Thank you. I don't think so, but thank you.
Yeah, you just take it, acknowledge it. Yes, thanks. I think you have an opportunity. To teach young people who are in a majority in the continent and who are being turned into human waste. We're not using our people as human capital. We are not taking advantage of a human being, because if you look at other countries, when they look at a person, they see that person as, part of human potential who can change the country. But we're not doing that. So you have this platform, and I think you've used it quite well, and I think you can even take it to greater heights.
Thank you. I really hope so. But obviously I don't do it alone. Besides the production crew, it's guests like yourself, who are here to also help not just conscientize the audience, but even me. Because, I'm human at the end of the day. I may lose my way. I may start having certain biases because of the spaces I'm in. And just to remind me of where we come from and what we could be if we stay focused. I need to apologize to Mamzanele Ntuli. She was shouting at me last week because you and I were supposed to sit months ago. But I have to also in the same breath thank her for bringing you here to sit with me. And I'm hoping to sit with more people through her. Maybe when she's ready, she'll share some of her stories. You have an issue with my friendship with Rob Hersov.
I think it's more of memory preservation. I think that's the first thing, but also accountability. As I was engaging on a short engagement, I highlighted to you that the Herzovs, no different to the Menels and the Oppenheimers, they came to the country, and they're part of the families that extracted minerals. And they're part of families which worked with the colonial and the apartheid government to ensure that laws were enacted that marginalized the black majority. He speaks with so much confidence, as if his family was not part of those who oppressed and exploited our people. But I think what angers me the most with Rob is the very fact that his father was part of the South African Defence Force Advisory Committee of Border. And his father was also the chair of Barclays Bank. Now, if you look at his tenure in the 80s, Barclays Bank is the one that funded the apartheid government armaments wing. But over and above that, he was part of the people who brought the Israelis to the country because the apartheid government did business with Israel. In fact,
that is true.
Yeah, if you look at, I think it was 81 or 83, there was a deal that was struck, a military deal that was struck between South Africa and Israel. And it is said that that deal actually saved Israel's economy. But if you go over and above that, his father was also an advisor to Thabo Mbeki during the arms deal. So this is a man who wants to posture himself as a paragon of morality, as if he made his money, it came out of his wisdom. No, it was generational wealth, and it was wealth that was created out of, as I said, exploiting our people. I mean, if you look at the people that he hammers on, President Ramaphosa is not my favorite person, and the ANC itself. But if you look at the governing party, it's a product of a dysfunctional system. It had to inherit corruption from the apartheid government to the extent that it is the very ANC that forgave his father. His father, Basil Hersov, never accounted for the atrocities, because if you look at international law and what it says about those who aided and abetted criminality, including human injustices, it says that they must account. But Herzog's family never accounted, and you guys give him platforms. I mean, he is Jew, and I was saying to you, Jews will never give Nazis any platform. Why are we as black people giving people who oppressed and exploited us a platform, and in that platform they come and they insult us? They see nothing good in us. In fact, they want to take over. We have been 30 years into democracy. They came here centuries ago. What did they do? I mean, they killed our kings. They killed our chiefs. We've never had an opportunity where we can sit and say that we are rebuilding. The ANC itself, that many of us are saying that, it has made mistakes, and yes, it has made mistakes, is a party that has been in government for only 30 years. And it has been in government without any economic power. And some of, what I'm raising, it's part of their own, mistakes, the very fact that they are capital controlled by the very Herzovs. But I think you should not be giving him a platform. And I think black people who love themselves shouldn't be giving people like Rob Herzog any platform. He has not accounted for his family sins and those of his forebearers. But I think as black people, we don't care. Our lives do not matter and that of our ancestors.
Jeez, this is my it's my chance to respond.
Yes, you may. Thank you.
So many layers to what you're raising. So I stand to be corrected. I don't think the Hersov family in South Africa is Jewish anymore. I think when they arrived, they were Jewish. I stand to be corrected. I think the Oppenheimers similarly, they were also Jewish when they came here, and they converted to Anglican. Again, I stand to be corrected. I think when he was coronated, the king of the Zulus, Umisu Zulu, was also crowned by an Anglican bishop, if I'm not mistaken. So there seems to be quite a power force in maybe Christianity and the Anglican Church. I can't speak for their Jewish roots, and I can't even speak for their religious beliefs now. And look, I unfortunately am not a spokesperson for the Hersov family. I just have to defend myself for giving them platform, which is a very valid, what's the right word? Challenge from you. So I met up with Rob Hersov a couple of years ago. I'd made a video because he had given a speech at the Biz News conference. And it was there we were saying ANC leaders are stupid, and he was calling out Fikile Mbalula. Would you ever hire a guy like that in your company? It was a provocative speech. Very polarizing speech, very controversial. So I made a video about it, and the video went viral, and some of the people that know Rob personally sent him the video. He's not on social media last time I checked. So we arranged to meet up. We met, we had a chat, we had similar interests. Both love rugby. We both love healthy masculinity, stoicism. We both, I'd like to believe, want South Africa to be great again. How we want it to be great again may be different. And that's where me and him, we do argue, we do debate. He's a 100% capitalist. I am mostly capitalist, but I fully acknowledge some of the nonsense that capitalism comes with. And I don't shy away on pointing out that capitalism is responsible for a lot of our human rights atrocities. I don't necessarily know his father's history, and I'm glad that you're raising it now. I know more his grandfather, who did work with the Manel family in setting up Anglo-Fall.
Anglo-Fall, yes.
Yeah. And today, a part of Anglo-Fall is what was sold, in inverted commas, to the Motsipe family.
APRM, not necessarily sold. It was that era of mining charters and banking charters and reconfiguration of some of these colonial and apartheid companies.
So he was given a part, but there's these fancy finance terms of like vendor financing and these weird things we don't really understand. Anyways, so Patrice ended up getting a piece of Anglo-Fall mining. It also got split into Avenge, Anglo-Fall Engineering, which is a big, I think is it one of the big 5 construction companies in the country? And then AVI, Anglo-Fall Industries, which some of our favorite products that we consume fall under there. I'm aware of some of this history, and I haven't challenged Rob about some of these things because that was not the nature of our engagement. The nature of our engagement was on how to fix what we're seeing as wrong in this country. We're all struggling with potholes. We're all struggling with load shedding. We're all struggling with crime. He obviously comes from privilege, and I'd like to think he mostly owns it. You know, he said that he comes from, you know, a great family that has given him opportunities in life that other people don't have. And some of what I've said to him and said to some of his more privileged white friends that I've met is they do have a responsibility to try and fix this country. I am not naive to believe that anyone would want to give away their privilege. It could be the Zulu royal family. When you tell them, no, you must dismantle the trust and give, they'll fight it. They'll say no. Similar thing could happen to a Royal Bafokeng. Similar things could happen to, let's say, the Motsipe, Ramaphosa, Sekhuale, Maponya, some of these other families. Could be Indian families as well. You're like, look, please help us fix and build this country. But you must apologize and say sorry and admit. They will not do it, unfortunately, including our sitting president now, who it's been raised, things like Marikana, things like this Phala Phala thing. The guy doesn't own up to anything. It's always not him. Someone else, he was not involved. So I'm not naive to expect whether Rob Hersov or his family to apologize, because part of the danger in apologizing for past atrocities is as soon as you apologize. This happened to King Charles when certain countries were saying he must apologize for colonization. As soon as you apologize, it gets recorded, and because you apologize, you must atone. As long as you don't apologize, it's wishy-washy whether you were wrong or whatever the case may be. So in terms of giving him a platform, look, I think he's already got a big platform. He's friends with some of the biggest media owners in the world. He worked with Johan Rupert. He was the right-hand man of Rupert Murdoch, probably still the biggest media owner in the world. He's friends with people like Tucker Carlson. He doesn't need me. Like I said, our point of engagement was that sit down and then trying to see how we can fix this country. I'm not here to defend him, and anyone who wants to attack Rob is free to do so. I believe he's got his own voice, his own mouth. He can speak for himself. But I do appreciate his willingness to come and sit and talk and to hear whether you think he's arrogant or whether he apologizes for his family or whether he's willing to help us with the country. There are too many wealthy beneficiaries of apartheid and colonization that are quiet, that don't want to say anything. So we don't even know how deep this thing goes and how we can even engage them. He's willing to say, let's chat and we can debate. That's me and him and other people. The Oppenheimers don't necessarily come forward to sit. The Manels don't. Other families don't as well. And Johan Rupert sat with Ukiven Mkari. couple of years ago on the chairman's report, I think. And the way he was attacked on social media and mainstream media, Johan Rupert, I don't think he's had a sit down since.
But he must have. And I think when I hear you speaking, I mean, you made an example with Misizulu.
Yeah.
And the very fact that he was coronated or something to that effect. And you mentioned the Anglican Church. You can't isolate it from the very fact that his great-grandfather, King Dinizulu, and his forebearers before that, King Cetshwayo, King Pande, and those that came before Misizulu, that these were African men who knew no church and had their own God, and they had their own religion. But his father, his great-grandfather, he was taken to St. Helena Island. In fact, if you take it, a step backwards, Misizulu was the son of King Zwelithini.
Yeah.
Zwelithini was the son to King Cyprian, and Cyprian was the son to King Solomon, who was born at St. Helena Island. He was born in exile. And no different to, if you look at King Ngungunyane from Mozambique, but who was a descendant of King Soshangani. They were forced into exile, into prison, where colonial education was imposed and enforced on them.
Sure.
Yes, King Cetshwayo at some point had to go to England, where he had to beg the king to allow him to be king after he had defeated the British. So we are talking about a society and a nation which has been imposed a religion, a culture, an education on them.
Yeah.
That is why how we look, we see ourselves through the lenses of whiteness.
The fact that we're speaking English here today.
Yes, I mean, and our generation, and I tell people it's going to be difficult to get over it. But you have people like your Hersovs who come out, they're not talking about how to end inequality. He's not talking about that. He's talking
But
about...
how does it benefit him and whatever privilege is inherited?
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. When you say that he's getting all this platform, he's getting this platform because he wants to put his point across. And his point is to reinforce white supremacy. He believes that only white people can lead. And these very white people have never given white people an opportunity to lead. What they did in the 70s, his family and your Oppenheimers through your Eben Foundation and others, they took black students to school, they took them to university. They even started that school in Swaziland where they took children of ANC leaders, the majority of...
Is this not Waterford, Kamhlaba?
Yes, Kamhlaba.
Dope school, is what you...
Dope school.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the best schools ever.
One of the best
Top
schools.
notch. Started by Clive Manel.
That's them giving back, isn't
No,
it?
it was not giving back. Whiteness prepares for the future. These
No,
people are far ahead.
So again, not to defend. Maybe let me say this. We must never be naive to assume that people that have reached some societal level of superiority, whether it's financial or whatever the case may be, will just let things go.
Not true.
For me, and like I said, with the having of the platform, it's to have the conversation and to hear. Because I think that's what Nelson Mandela was also trying to do, of which some people call him a sellout today. Let me hear what these people have to say. He became friends with Eric Sampson, with I think Harry Oppenheimer, if I'm not mistaken, and Dostane and other.
He even stayed with Manel and some of the Jewish families after he separated from Winnie Mandela.
Yes.
So, I mean, I hear all these things, but I...
So I'm just saying we mustn't be naive to... Because you're saying Rob Hersov doesn't believe in black leaders. And he could argue, I've supported Musi Maimane, I've supported Herman Mashaba.
Whose interest
he currently, is... No, I hear you.
Whose interest is Musi saving? Whose interest
that's what I'm trying to get
is Herman saving, if not for the... To maintain white supremacy? Who are they saving?
And you're speaking about the Zulu kings as well. And look, after we've sat with people like him, it's obviously important to take stock and to bring up the history and to have these conversations. But then in that we must introspect and then look at ourselves as black Africans and be like, but we are the ones that vote for these so-called failed experiments. We are the ones that still have statues of Utata Nelson Mandela. We are the ones that bow down to a Zulu king. So
there's nothing wrong.
There's
nothing wrong with a Zulu king.
There's nothing wrong.
No, there's absolutely nothing wrong. The land was taken from the kings, the chiefs, and the queens.
Yeah.
The land was not taken from any political party. The land was not taken from the ANC. The land was not taken from the IFP, DA, or in fact, let me just mention black parties in particular. The land was taken from the kings, the chiefs, and the queens who defended their people.
You believe that the land belongs to kings and
and the people, and the ordinary people.
Okay.
Yes, and the people. Remember when your chief Bambata, when he fought against the tax poll, he was defending his people when...
Sorry, please pause there.
Yes.
The tax poll was when the British government said to black people, you must start paying tax, a hard tax. And Bambata were like, we're not going to do that. Sorry.
Yes. And even before that, you had my favorite, and I don't know why this government has written him off.
You don't know why?
No, there's this other one. Okay, it's Bambata.
Yeah.
He was a revolutionary, Chief Bambata. But then you also have King Langalibalele, the first political prisoner at Robben Island in the 1800s. And if you look at the Hlubi Nation, for example, this ANC-led government refuses to give the Hlubi Nation paramount chieftaincy, despite they're one of the biggest tribes in this country. You find them if you go to the Eastern Cape. You find Amahlubi.
Sure.
If you go to the city of Cape Town, Kwalanga. Kwalanga is named after King Langalibalele.
I didn't know that.
Yes,
Thank
because after Robben Island, he was taken to a house under house arrest. So his people followed him to the Western Cape. If you go to as far as, I'm not sure if I mentioned Lesotho, but there's also Swaziland. And outside of the country, that's how far spread Amahlubi are.
Yeah.
But this government does not want to acknowledge them. But at the very same time, there are dynamics between Amahlubi and the Zulu nation. But you can blame, I am one of those who says, but why are we giving Zulus taxpayers' money? But at the very same time, I ask myself, if indeed King Misizulu is a descendant of King Dinizulu, no King Kwatwayo, why would he be a SASSA recipient? Why would he allow himself to be given stipends by this government?
He's a SASSA recipient.
I believe that he's a SASSA recipient.
That money that he's getting is a grant.
That man controls millions of people.
Hectic.
He doesn't know how powerful he is.
Yeah.
But
or maybe he does.
Oh, he's one of those leaders, eh?
Maybe he does, and his position is tight.
What if he's comfortable? What if he's okay?
Do you know the cost to true decolonization and revolution is very high? At extreme, obviously, it takes a lot of blood. But outside of a lot of blood, the psychological re-engineering that's needed is very deep. I sat with a gentleman. I know the conversation hasn't set out on another platform of mine, the Penwell Show. And one of the things he was saying is the best way to either indoctrinate or engineer or re-engineer, let's say we're decolonizing people, is through trauma. And he says you can never do it through comfort. So my take out there was, even if decolonized African minds want to decolonize their people, it's not going to be by being nice. We're almost going to need to traumatize them at a similar intensity, if not worse, than the colonizers before, for their benefit, which is not a comfortable conversation to have. Which the reason you guys are not willing to change is because where you are now came from extreme trauma. And if we want to change you, it's not going to be by being nice. I'm going to have to almost be scarier than the people, let's say white supremacy, that you fear now. You must fear black supremacy and then abide, but for your benefit.
Oh,
anyways, enough for no Rob. I know we have points to discuss, and I don't know if you have anything else to say there, but Rob can defend himself. I was just explaining my engagement with him and the fact that I think we'd like to fix the country. To what ends, we'll see. I'm not naive to think that himself or other people, this is where we debate about capitalism, actually care about the true empowerment and upliftment of everyone. Because if the Stellenbosch mafia uplifts and empowers townships, they will become poor tomorrow. Because then the townships won't need Capitec and ShopRite.
I don't think
and all
so.
their businesses. They'll have their own.
I don't think so. To the extent that I don't think your Herzovs and Oppenheimers are practicing capitalism. Monopoly, in fact, is an antithesis of capitalism. Yes, monopolies, they are an antithesis of capitalism because capitalism is about competition. Now, what these guys have done, they've hoarded everything.
Yeah.
They control the value chain of everything. They control the banks. I mean, we could be spending more money. There could be more money going into the economy if blacks were enabled to participate in the mainstream economy. They're not doing that. Instead, what they're doing is they are even pushing, the black middle class as well, further into poverty. So it's not as if they are this progressive capitalists. They're not.
But do you expect them to share? Do you expect Patrice Motsepe to share? King Misuzulu to share?
Well,
I'm just trying to figure out if it's a white thing or if it's just a thing of.
I don't expect much from. I don't expect much from Patrice. Remember, you said that Patrice, his company APRM, it was previously called Engloval. In fact, as far as 2003, that's when it was changed to all these other companies.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at the board, Brian Menel is there. If you look at the Mineral Council, Brian is there. The Menelsa. If you look at Nelson Mandela Foundation, Menel is there. So, I mean, you can't expect, honestly, I mean, I feel for Patrice. I mean, this man can't even fund black civil society. He can fund a church, yes. He can start a football club. You know what Muammar Gaddafi says about soccer. You know what he says about African men going to stadiums and acting like fools watching soccer, where the countries are banning. They don't own land. They don't own the economy. But they can spend every weekend watching football. And on the Green Book, Muammar Gaddafi speaks succinctly about, the backwardsness of some of the sports. So I feel for Patrice. I mean, he hasn't done much to uplift black people from a transformational perspective. And I guess his hands are tied. But also, one thing that I want to speak to, when you started, you said you were stoic and masculinity and so forth. But it's so weird because I think black men are weak now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So we're all catching bullets.
No. I don't think it's their fault as well. I think the system has emasculated them. I think that's why.
And feminized.
And feminized.
Especially black men.
Oh, black boys, it gets worse.
It's easier to control a feminized people because feminine energy is agreeable. It's submissive.
Yes.
So if you can get men to eat certain foods, take certain medicines, dress in a certain way, listen to certain types of music, it becomes easier to control them. Very difficult to control high testosterone. And I know this upsets people, but this is one of the things I admire with Afrikaners. They're very stubborn. And look, a big chunk of the Zulu nation still. Very stubborn, very masculine. When you try and tell them, but be progressive, this is what you're like, and you're like, okay, I appreciate this because it's still that core masculinity, which when other nations are coming to attack us, those are the people that you go to kind of protect you.
It's deliberate.
Oh,
you destroy the black man.
People are catching strays. We've got points that we're supposed to get through, and I don't even know if we'll get through them. I got notes on things that you'd like to discuss. I don't know how important they are. I'd like to go through the list, and then you'll pick what you think is the most important in case we run out of time.
Okay.
So that we can then leave the other things for another sit down. 9 points. The formation of the ANC as an elitist organization post the Bambata rebellion. You mentioned Upambata. Number 2, apartheid and Prime Minister Hendrik Verwoerd and his assassination. Number 3, the Nelson Mandela Crisis Committee. Number 4, CODESA / the Broederbond. Number 5, Umbeki, Uzuma and Ramaphosa ascendancy. Number 6, the resignation of Jacob Zuma on Valentine's Day. Number 7, Eskom's IPPs and load shedding. Number 8, Minister Pravin Gordhan. And number 9, Zuma's new MK party. So these are all loaded points. But I'd like you to maybe pick, let's say, your top 3, because I think we can go hard. And maybe we'll touch on some of these things. You've left the ANC.
Oh,
so
yes.
you're bitter and angry.
I'm so happy.
You're a bitter and angry woman that's coming here to destroy the ANC's image. She's just bitter.
No, the ANC doesn't need me to destroy Yeah, they are destroying each other on a daily basis. So they don't need me. And I mean, the ANC is a manifestation of liberation movements. If you look at liberation movements,
Correct.
30 years, they start to become dysfunctional.
Animal farm.
Yes. So, and
Sorry, what did you do at the ANC? And why did you leave?
Why did I leave?
Before we get into this. What did you do at the ANC and why did you leave?
Okay, so I joined the ANC in fact, I joined courses in high school in 1998.
You've been an activist for a while.
For forever.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't know anything else but politics.
Yeah.
So I joined COSAS in 1998. Then I joined the ANC and the Youth League in 2000, 2001, around there. But when I left, I resigned in October last year.
2023.
In 2023, yes, I was head of monitoring and evaluation, communication and research in the office of the regional secretary in Johannesburg, who was responsible for, more than 136 wards or so. But in the main, they were just fighting way too much. They were not doing the work of the ANC.
Yeah.
They were fighting for patronage in the city of Joburg.
Yeah.
I couldn't take it. It was just heavy on me. And the fact that that the constituency that elected the ANC is the people from the township, the informal settlement, and the inner city. We are not servicing these people.
Correct.
Yet everyone who's in the city, they're fighting for positions to the extent that they threaten each other. It was just heavy on me beyond other things, because I had wanted to resign a long time ago. I mean, I remember years back, we had a conversation with Julius. I wanted to resign. But because my forefathers formed
years ago when Julius was still in the ANC?
No. 2016, 20...
After?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but I couldn't leave because my great-grandfather formed the ANC in 1912. So there's been that thing that I cannot leave, because to our family, if you go to Barolong in particular, in Mafike and Baratsidi, who were part of the founding fathers of the ANC, you would actually cry, because Mafikeng is now a shanty town.
Yeah.
And...
Sorry, please give a shout-out to your grandfather fully.
There are many. It's Joshua Molema, Khosi Muntsiwa, George Duke Muntsiwa the third, admitted attorney. Then there is Dr. Molema and others. So Barolong, as in fact the Muntsiwa and the Molemas, they were part of the people who formed the ANC in 1912. But the idea stemmed from the Barolong perspective. It stemmed from the third admitted attorney, who was George Dick Muntsiwa, who studied overseas, came back to the country, and then when he came back, he was representing Barolong, no different to how Pixley Gaisaka.
Yeah.
Pixley at the time was representing Queen, the Queen from Swaziland. And then you also had Udube.
Langalibalele Dube.
Yes, Langalibalele, who was named after King Langalibalele of the Hlubis. So, but Pixley Gaisaka Seme, Dick Muntsiwa, and Mangena, Richard Mangena, and two others. They were.
Hey, we've got a Mangena in the house. We'll see a Mangena. Shout out to him.
Oh, yes. So these are the guys who came together and said that, look, the land is being taken. The land has always been stolen. But when the laws that were enacted, they were just taking more land, especially from the elite. Because these guys were like, no, we can vote in the Cape. Because some of them could vote in the Cape, by the way.
Some black people.
Yes, voting did not start in 1994. The right to vote did not start in 1994. Yes, there were black people, black elites who stayed in the Cape, for example, who were allowed to vote, who owned property, who also owned livestock. But when that was taken away from them, that's when they started to organize themselves. But there were some who had organized themselves before. But these ones, they came together. And they started, they met, and then they went to the kings, your Chief Muntsiwa. They also went to Dinizulu, King Dinizulu. At the time of King Dinizulu, and King Dinizulu, I just love the story, because King Dinizulu, he was arrested in 1907 or so, but he was released in 1910 by the Afrikaner Louis Botha. That's why I thought that it would be important to mention Hendrik Verwoerd, because it's important that we speak about Afrikaners.
Yeah.
Afrikaners, unlike, Europeans or European descendants like Oppenheimers, Herzovs and so forth, they struggled in this country. They were put in camps by the British.
Correct.
But they also, if you look at Prime Minister Louis Botha, when after the union with the British, he's the one who released King Dinizulu, and he put him in Mpumalanga under house arrest in a farm, and he gave him stipends. So all these people, all these lawyers, or all these educated people, Amazimtiti, they went to the kings and the chiefs, and they went to convince them that, look, you've been fighting, we're not going anywhere. We're going to form this party. We are going to make you honorary presidents. Yeah. Because if you take that conference in 1912 in Bloemfontein, King Dinizulu was given honorary presidency, the same as Chief Munsiwa, Chief Litsie. Around 7 to 9 traditional leaders were given honorary status of presidency at that conference. And that was the beginning and the end of black people taking arms, real arms, and fighting.
The beginning and the end.
Yeah, what did they do? They stayed in camps, whilst children of ANC leaders were studying at Waterford. They were in London. They were in the US. They were being prepared to lead, and these young boys were taken to camps where they stayed in the camps, and there were mutinies. Some of them, they killed each other. And there were rapes, and the ANC does not talk about that, by the way. And
what rapes? Men raping each other in camps?
No, I wouldn't know about that
men
part.
Raping women in camps?
Yes, but that's been documented.
No, I know when it comes to guerrilla warfare, certain soldier military camps, sometimes there are many dark things, and because of discipline and honor, you keep these things hidden there.
No, there was a commission, in fact, which said to deal with the atrocities that happened in the camps. But those atrocities happened mainly between it was poor people in the main who were taken to those camps. Yeah. It was not the elite. It was not your Thabo Mbeki.
The elite would never do that. No, they always send their kids overseas, even to this day.
Yes, Thabo Mbeki was in London. He was organizing marches in London. There's
nice pictures of him with nice ladies there.
Yes,
his pipe.
He was even taken to school, by the way, through NUSASA. NUSASA, the fund, the scholarship from NUSASA. NUSASA NUSASA is now SASCO today. And when I tell people that, they say, no, it's not SASCO, they just amalgamated. NUSASA was a student organization formed by mainly English-speaking students at varsities. The founder and the person was also ordained as an honorary president was Harry Oppenheimer. So...
as an honorary president of what?
NUSASA, that white student organization. Okay. But in the 90s, NUSASA and black student organizations, they amalgamated to what is SASCO today. So wouldn't you say that Oppenheimer is an honorary president of SASCO? I mean, you are likely to say that. So Mbeki was taken to school by the Oppenheimers. The same with our president. I mean, his first job, it was at a Jewish law firm. After the Jewish law firm, he was, I mean, even if you go to his profile in the website, in the presidency website, it details what happened to him after he went to varsity. He went to join KUSA, which was a trade union, a liberal trade union. These people are just clever. They start all these institutions and organizations. No different to how they're funding all these political parties that they want to use to overthrow the ANC, if not go into a coalition with the ANC. Yeah. So, back to what you were asking, I think for me, the topic which, and I've been doing research on it, and I'm hoping to finish a book on it. It's Hendrik Verwoerd and why he had to be assassinated in 1966, or was it 67?
I think it was 66.
Yeah.
I sat with the leader of Oranje now, Joost Strydom, young guy, the CEO of the Oranje movement. As we're filming this, the episode dropped this morning, and he was speaking about how the Oranje idea, because Verwoerd was assassinated in 66, all the way back then, they still had this idea. It's not like it was only born in 91 or 1994. Before you speak about Verwoerd,
by the way, sorry, before you come in, are you aware that the South African flag, the flag that people host up and pull up, it includes the flag of the Orange Free State, the Boere Orange Free State Republic of 1880 something. I mean, if
it's incorporated in the design.
It's incorporated into the design.
Go check it out.
Go check it out.
Same as our national anthem.
Same as our national anthem. Yeah, yes.
You know, one of the things I've said in the past is I believe the ANC was set up by a group of educated black people who are frustrated. And I don't think in their heads they were thinking, we want to liberate black people and we want all of us to be rich and partake in the economy. I think they wanted a seat at the table. I think they were like, look, but we are educated like you. Some of us studied overseas. We are lawyers. I mean, Pixley was such a boss. I think he had 2 wives, one from the Swati royal family, another one, I think, from the Zulu royal family.
The first daughter, Usara, Princess Sarah, the daughter.
What a boss.
Of King Dinizulu Kacetshwayo.
And he owned land as well. I don't know if it's Dacha Fontaine or Dacha Kral or whatever the place is now.
Yes.
And I think they were frustrated and then they co-opted the masses. Or maybe the masses saw their fight and then joined in. But it wasn't always about that. And I normally used to say this with Jacob Zuma in conversation, that I think they almost made a mistake by bringing this so-called uneducated man in. Because Zuma's reference to Pambata and some of those rebellions. And it's like, but this is not what we're about. And I think when Johan Rupert, because I know he's called out to Thabo Mbeki at some point, maybe the Hersov family now, when they've called out the ANC, it's almost like make the ANC great again. And they wanted Cyril back for that. Uguti, this is not what we agreed on. You know, you guys are educated. I mean, we gave you guys some shares. You guys live in our neighborhoods now. Our kids go to the same schools. What nonsense is this? Where you guys are dismantling charters and you're trying to aggressively transform, and there are people getting tenders that they shouldn't even know exist.
What is Cyril transforming?
Asaz.
He's giving back. Look,
you guys as part of the ANC must explain.
That's why I wanted to speak about Hendrik Verwoerd.
Let's go to Hendrik Verwoerd.
I think it's important because you must understand what's happening now in context to Verwoerd.
Sure.
Because Verwoerd, he took over power. They call him the architect of apartheid.
Yes, the father of apartheid. There's a lot of statues of him there. But he's got a museum.
Yes, I mean, white people came to South Africa in 1652. So apartheid did not...
Officially,
yes, apartheid did not start with him. I mean, there've also been legislations and laws which were meant to separate, Africans from white people. Yeah. But with Verwoerd, with all of his limitations, he was a racist, hardcore racist. But as an Afrikaner, and responding to whiteness, when he came, in fact, after he took power and in the 60s, and there are records to this, so he called in some of the best minds in the Afrikaner community. And one of the people that he relied on is Dr. Van der Bijl, the one that Van der Bijl is...
named after.
Yes.
What a boss.
Yeah.
One of my favorite South Africans, by the way.
Yes. So, and he said, give me a document on how to colonize state-owned institutions for the interest of Afrikaners. And Dr. Van der Bijl gave him a document, and that's how it all started. And then after he did that, he said, look, we're going to change our currency. At the time, it was the British pound. Yeah. He said, no, we're going to change it to the rand.
Kruger rand.
He says,
Paul Kruger.
Yes, Paul Kruger. He says, no, we're changing it to the rand. And then after that, he says, we must build our own nuclear station. And what is Britain saying? Wow. This lowly slave, because they did not see Afrikaners as
they
equals.
Saw them as second-class citizens.
Yes.
Yeah.
What the hell is he doing? And then he starts talking about nationalization. 59, 60, he starts saying that we must nationalize the mines. Because, and I'm not sure if you're aware, Afrikaners only started owning real ownership. They started owning mines post-1994. Before that, the mines were in control of the British. From the time that...
Abo Anglo.
No. Anglo, remember, Anglo-American. Anglo is English. American is, American. Yeah. And the reason why Ernest Oppenheimer and the people that he worked with called it Anglo-American is because he received funding from the British, but also from JP Morgan, which is an American bank. So that's why he called it.
Ernest Oppenheimer also received funding from... the Rothschilds.
Yes, also well. Yes. So that's why...
JP Morgan, the men who built America.
Yes. Yeah. So that's why he called it Anglo-American. But if you look at the mining landlords, from the time that diamonds and gold were discovered. Were discovered. It has always been, it was different Europeans. Then it was the British.
Abo Rhodes, Cullinan.
Yes.
All these guys.
I mean, Kimberley, at some point, it was the Santon of South Africa.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not even sure if you know Ernest, his house was, it was lit. Afrikaners, they marched to his house and they banned his house, and he had he had to flee back to England.
History repeats itself.
Yes. So now this Afrikaner guy,
Hendrik French Verwoerd.
Yes, he says that, look, we
Yeah,
want to own the mines as well. You've been controlling this mine. We don't have. You've given us political power since 1910 and the Orange Free State. You've given us political power. We do not have economic power.
This sounds so familiar.
Yes. And what does Oppenheimer do? He starts a company called Genco. Now it's called Genco. Now it's called BHP Billiton. I think they've given it another name now.
Yeah.
So he starts a company in 1962, and what does he do? He gives money or funding to Afrikaners. Tell me it's not the same story. Gives funding to Afrikaners, and they start this company called Genco. And after a couple of years, and in Parliament, Verwoerd says, Oppenheimers, they are so powerful that if they so wish, they can start a coup, something to that effect. But that's how the Oppenheimers were. And if you recall, during that time, it's also the time where Chief Luthuli is given...
Chief Albert Luthuli.
Yes, is given a Nobel Prize award.
I remember, because he went to visit the Queen.
For doing what? He gets this award. And then you have Subukwa, who's arrested.
Yes.
In fact, the very same year that Chief Luthuli got that award, that's the same year that Robert Subukwa was arrested, which is such an irony. So eventually, Verwoerd is assassinated. And that's the end, really, of Afrikaner, the idea of this folk. Afrikaners are now assimilated into the Anglo-Saxon community. That's why now they rush to America, they rush to England, and they say that farmers are being killed. Yes. So I think, that's another aspect. And during that period, that's the period that these landlords, the mining landlords, are taking black people to universities because they could see that the end of apartheid was, it was close. So they started to invest. They took Ramaphosa to school. Many of these ANC leaders were taken to school.
Yeah.
That's why they are the first gatekeepers of whiteness.
Yeah.
They are the first people to defend, the so-called private sector. Yo Sniki Zigalala, yo Mendim Simang. These are the people who want the ANC to go into a coalition with the Democratic Alliance, because the Democratic Alliance and this part of the ANC is one thing. Yes.
I recently watched an old interview of Patrice Motsepe speaking about his life story and mentioning how it was difficult for him to get into Wits at that time because black kids were not allowed. But somehow he got in, and there was some council they had to go and speak to. And people that know the history will know his father, Augustine, was very close to the Manals and those kind of people. We don't know South African history as well as we should. And again, it becomes that story of co-opting ignorant masses to fight fights they don't know. Because some of us have tasted a bit of elite money and privilege, and we're like, no, man. The currency that we use, anyone use, could be Julius Malema at the EFF, it could be Cyril at the ANC, it could be Musi Maimane when he was with the DA. The currency that an Oppenheimer, the British will listen to is how many people can I influence on the ground. And then you use that to accumulate wealth, get a nice salary, get shares on a seat, and then try and borrow your way into... I remember seeing Cyril getting so happy sitting in the coach. I don't know if it was Queen Elizabeth at the time or King Charles. Guti, I think I've been upgraded, Baba, to the big table. I'm going to be the next Cecil John Rhodes. From here, King Charles is going to say, look, on behalf of the Commonwealth, we need you to tell us what's going on in Ghana. Please help us with, which is why at times he's tried to carry himself as the head boy of Africa. And sometimes you'll find like a Paul Kagame not enjoying that, and some other leaders being like, no, man, this guy doesn't speak on our behalf. But it's all a scrambling for the favor of the British Crown American leadership, and more importantly, the people that actually run the biggest businesses in the world. When you look at the history, the little bit that I know, again, with the history repeating itself, I went to go and hike. I love hiking. And whenever I travel, I've got this curious mind where I always want to know, what was Newtown before? There's a beautiful hiking trail called, it's here by Houghton, the Wilds. It's called the Wilds. Right next to St. John's College, right next to Rodin. It's two of the most expensive schools in the country. The Wilds used to form a part of a farm. There's a name there if you go and read the board. So I read the board. This land used to belong to, but Penuel, because of Google and internet, is here. Uba Manjele, Oni Plus. And then you start seeing certain names. Barney Panato.
Oh, yes, the landlord.
Barney Panato was a landlord.
Yes.
He got in with gold, and partly because he was struggling to compete for diamonds with all roads. Abo roads came. But they also struggled for power here and politics. And you start, when I look at this country, and I normally say this, that I think this country's always been run by mafias. Well, big companies, whatever. Mafia. I say mafias because of the way they operate. There's a lot of violence. There's a lot of extortion. There's a lot of bullying. There's a lot of positioning people. Anglo-American seems to be one of the first big mafias here. And they've almost always needed to give people an allowance to exist. So when Opani Panato and these guys came in, they wanted to own mines, but they couldn't because they were scared of things happening to them. So they'd need to give some of their ownership to an Anglo. Later on, when the black politicians are coming in, it's the same Anglo that's having conversations and saying, look, give this Mzi Khumalo a bit of this, because these guys are preserving whatever we have. And I think in time, because I think Anglo is delisted in South Africa and it's listed in America, if I'm not mistaken, to what you're saying about foresight, which a lot of us lack, we're just here. When you start seeing that maybe this name Anglo doesn't work anymore, you start rebranding. And then you start bringing in new players like a Glencore. Now all of a sudden they become the new players. When you're like, but you guys are like,
Glencore is old, by the way.
We own nothing.
No, Glencore.
It's them.
Glencore is a bit. It's. In fact, they were also involved in the arms
Definitely,
dealings.
with Mark Rich.
Yes, they were also involved in the arms dealings. But I think what you're raising is quite critical. I mean, why do we need political parties? I mean, why are we as black people voting?
We believe in. We come from a history of kings and queens and being owned and being subjects. And it's just been rebranded today as politics. We still don't understand this thing of democracy and voting. That's why we vote ANC. Then we're like, House Lambile.
But don't you agree that at some point, I mean, you said you're a stoic, you said you're masculine.
Hey, don't keep saying that,
no, I have
now
to
people
say,
are going to challenge me.
You know what?
Guys, I'm a part-time. Part-time stoic.
I'm raising this. People easily submit to a system that works for them.
Correct.
So even if you are a man, you're masculine, a woman would submit to you easily.
Yeah.
If you know your place and you're able to provide and you're not weak.
Yeah.
So if a king, a queen, a politician can do all those things, then it would be easy for us to submit. Now, if you look at this government, the sixth administration in particular, and you were speaking about, or you were alluding to the fact that I said that whiteness, it's able to, to look at the future, to invest for the future. I mean, just look at SAA. Look at whom Pravin sold SAA to. Who are those guys? No one is asking that. Your Harith, your Libashe, your Jabum Leketi, and others, but the white guys. I mean, if you look at Harith, who their partners are, it's mainly the Ruperts. You go to Eskom, the IPPs. I mean, Eskom at the moment has been divided. It's being unbundled.
Split in three.
Yes, it's being unbundled. Who are the guys who are there besides the old guys who've always been playing in that space? And, you go to some of the other SOEs, your Transnet, we have sold our rail, we've sold our ports.
Yeah.
It means that by the time that Cyril Ramaphosa, Pravin Gordhan, they retire, they would control these assets.
From outside.
From
Economic
outside.
power.
Yes. So whoever comes in.
It gets political power.
Yes.
It will be hollow again.
Economic and political power. So whoever comes in, this new generation, your Julius, your Fikile Mbalula, what would they control? What are they going to control? What is it that, they cannot confront. These political parties, they cannot confront Ramaphosa's austerity and structural adjustments. They can't do that. For some reason, they can't. Why do they want to come into power? Because by the time that they come into power, there will not be any assets. Are they going to take these guys to court? No one is asking Pravin, when you made this deal and you sold SAA for 51 rands to your comrades. If you remember Jabu Mleketi of Libashe, he was a deputy minister when Pravin was SARS commissioner, meaning that Pravin was reporting to Jabu Mleketi. And Jabu Mleketi is a continuation of these guys who got deals. He was part of EOH. EOH was in the State Capture Commission. No one is saying EOH was implicated in the State Capture Commission. What journalists were saying is that no, EOH is part of the companies which was sorry for participating in state capture, whatever that is.
I think the Chief Justice, Raymond Zondo, said it's not within the scope. There's a scope, and the scope has to do with Zuma and the Guptas. Anything outside of the old Glen, Kowatwat, it's like, we don't have the budget. And his scope has voted.
And that's another thing. Imagine you're a judge, you go to school like Judge Slope. Even worse, Judge Slope is not like your Zondo. Judge Slope is a professor, he's a scholar. Imagine being impeached by people who some of them don't even have a matric certificate. But these judges can, for example, the likes of...
John Steenhuisen.
Yes,
Yeah.
And then you have these judges for them to hold to be a president of a particular court. You're appointed by who? By the president. So these people are beholden to Cyril Ramaphosa. And here is, one thing that I was
There's no real separation of powers.
Yes,
it's an illusion.
None whatsoever. Even the PP, the public protector, she's a former ANC Youth League member and leader. Would you not have expected her to be on the side of the ruling party, especially if she knew that by the time that she was acting, her position, or for her to become a public protector, that was dependent on the president. But, another thing.
Yeah, you're really frustrated, ne?
It's frustrating.
I'm really sorry, because the fear, and this is part of the fear with Julius and the EFF, especially because they're graduates of the ANC Youth League. The way they are moving, for me, maybe for others, it looks very reminiscent of movements in the past. We will nationalize. Our people are hungry. He lives in Hyde Park. He's friends with Cyril and these other elites. And what would stop him when he gets into power from also enjoying the perks and being co-opted? Because already with the little bit of privilege he has now, whether we like it or not, there are certain people that Julius never mentions who he should be pointing fingers. He points fingers almost at the people that have not captured him yet. Rupert. If ever I think he becomes close, you might find he never mentions the name again. And then he might be like, we don't like Rupert, but hey, at least he creates jobs. So, and you're like, Baba. But we were hating this guy yesterday. So I fear that the EFF, this is now part of maybe black foresight, to be like, look, the ANC will die at some point. So we're going to need a new ANC, but it must look like it's not an ANC. But it must still have the credentials of some kind of struggle. So that when we hand over power to them, we have groomed them and educated them. Today, the EFF is screaming education. We want educated. Why? By the same colonial system? We were happy with the Julius or Feli Woodwork. We were like, no, Baba, you are our guy. We don't need this system to validate us. Today, you want to champion our people have masters. If you don't have a degree, you can't sit in. This sounds exactly like what we've heard before. So where exactly are we going? And are we really ever going to get this liberation that you guys keep promising us? Or is it just going to be a remix of old things?
Well, okay, look, if you look at the majority of the leaders, political heads, they earn millions in parliament, isn't it? They are multi-millionaires out of taxpayers' money, which is okay because they say they have not even worked for it, by the way.
1.1 million a year, I think.
So now this is where I blame us.
Who's us?
Me and you.
The useless, stupid voter.
No, not even that. I think, look, you must be honest that you have made an impact on social media. When you speak, people listen. But you can elevate that. When there are key issues that you raise and people listen. And I think it's how you elevate the messaging. And you are not alone. There are many people like you, but I think you work in, silos. I think that's the big challenge. Now, if you look at the middle class, we are taxed twice. A typical politician, and you speak about Julius. I mean, these guys are lucky because they have PACs. Remember when the EFF was formed and they started speaking of the 7 cardinal pillars? They spoke about public health and so forth. And I don't want to hit hard on the EFF. But they spoke of the 7 cardinal pillars and so forth, and that they will go to public hospitals and whatnot. But no one is doing that. To the extent that, I mean, as a generation, we can't afford anything. We are in debt. The high level of divorce in the black community, no one speaks about that because absent fathers, because there's this burden, and it's because of the ANC elitist. Not even only the ANC, because the EFF itself and other parties, they're not holding each other accountable. All of them, they're getting all these PACs. They're getting these PACs, they're getting the cars, they're getting the houses. So they're not holding each other accountable. That's why they can go into a coalition with each other. And there is no service delivery. Like what you're seeing in Kurleni, in the city of Joburg. All of them, let me tell you, let me tell you, it's a circus, by the way. All of them, they're fighting for patronage. They're fighting for the purse. They're fighting to control the purse of those municipalities. They're not fighting for service delivery, because if you go to the townships in particular, because these political parties are mainly voted by people, by poor people. Correct. There's no service delivery.
But at least they get grants. So maybe they're voting for that. They're like, we'll take the little bit we get.
But how is it that, and that's another thing, please, at some point, have a bigger conversation. I mean, Daily Maverick is doing it with The Gathering, and I don't want to promote it, but they've got this platform where they, what do? They elevate right-wing ideas. So you can, I think that you have an opportunity to elevate some of the alternative voices, because you can't be frustrated. You need to educate people if you have a platform. If people are uneducated, miseducated, you need to educate them. Yeah. So I just think that it's such an indictment. I don't think politics is going to solve our problems. I think, even with MK, for example, I love JZ. When he resigned on the 14th. On the 13th, in fact, we saw him on the 12th, and we tried to engage him and to push him not to resign. We were at Mahlabandlovu. And
that's the presidential home and the minister's home in Pretoria.
Yes.
That has no load shedding.
Yes.
Ever.
Imagine.
Sorry, please carry on.
Yes. So we sat there and we thought that we had convinced him. And then on the 14th, when he was resigning, I remember we were at a hotel in Waterkloof, not far from where he had his conference. And we were crying, And now, with all his arrest, and then there's MK, and I'm like, I know the people behind MK, but I'm like, okay, I want to go to Parliament to do what? Maybe I can go to Parliament, but what exactly will I be doing in Parliament? Because obviously that's the whole idea, that we'll go into Parliament. What are you going to change? What exactly are you going to change when in the past 5 years under Ramaphosa we failed to change absolutely nothing? There was no funding for civil society. There was no funding for writers, and I'm not the only one, Everyone was scattered. So progressives were scattered. No one organized us. And now you've got a political party, which I think is a great platform, to some extent. But I think it's not the solution. I think the major problem is that those who've got money, black people who've got money, progressives who have money, are not funding great ideas. They're not funding your panel, properly, I think. They're not. I'm not saying.
You want me to get captured?
I'm not saying. No, but you can't do. Look, we are in a.
Hersov, this black water, their money is not that nice.
No, but.
No, I'm kidding.
No, look, your ideas need to grow. But they cannot grow if there's not enough money that is being invested. And also.
The danger is the money. I'll explain why.
No. Resources also, human resources. It's like
You spoke about human waste versus human capital. I believe in the human capital.
Yes. Yeah. So you can bring in people, but what I know, let me tell you, most of our guys are also hustling. So if I can tell you, and I always say this, we are not well organized, we are not well funded, and we are not well disciplined.
Yes. Discipline.
So, yes. So I'll tell you this, if there's no money, it will be difficult to move forward because people are going to leave you.
Yeah.
That's how it is. Black people are hungry.
Yeah.
Black people are hungry. But ultimately, as you were saying, I've seen politics. I've seen politicians and how they operate. I've seen their families benefiting, going to the best schools, protected. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to discourage anyone from going into politics. And I'm a political animal myself, to be honest. But in whose interest? Because clearly black people are being left behind. I mean, Panwell, if you look at unemployment rates in this country, you ask yourself, why does the ANC want to be rewarded with power again? When you've got...
Weren't they sent?
Well, whether they're sent...
I spoke to Herman Mashaba of Action SA. Umtate Herman Mashaba. By the way, he celebrated, I think it may have been 42 years of marriage with his wife, which is so dope.
No, that's great.
And it's something to cherish for many, many young people, especially looking at his business career. A lot of business guys end up chasing a lot of skirts, now into politics, and he's still there with his wife. And he was saying, look, maybe the ANC is delivering on a manifesto we are not aware of, that they've agreed with other people. That's why Ramaphosa can celebrate. We have 29 million grant recipients now. Celebrate. And maybe the unemployment rate, they can't say it outright, but it's something positive. Because maybe they were sent to destroy, including privatizing state-owned enterprises. I think it was raised with Thabo Mbeki because ex-president Thabo Mbeki, he tried to sell Eskom initially when he was president and he failed. And maybe later on it was like, look, we have going back to Hendrik Verwoerd. With Hendrik van der Bijl, they built Eskom, Sasol, ISCO, which became Mittal or was bought by Mittal, Armscor, to manufacture our own weapons, and all these other amazing state-owned companies. Amapunu were building. Now when you get rid of the Afrikaners, because I think it was Ubabu Moeletsi Mbeki, Thabo Mbeki's brother, who was saying that South Africans still serve the British
Empire,
the United Kingdom and the British Empire. And it's like, even when the Afrikaners came in, they almost had to ask from the British to take over. And they took over, but the British weren't happy with what they were doing. Now they want to get involved in the economy. It's like, no, let's maybe help some of these black organizations. That's where Mklampo Urban Foundation and those things come. And when they come in, it's like, guys, look, we're going to give you power. We're going to give you perks. You're going to live very well. But at some point, and I don't even know if this was the discussion at CODESA, we're going to have to dismantle the state-owned thing because it doesn't work. All the things that you need, the funding, the what, it's from business people. Politicians are not entrepreneurs.
But Jacob Zuma never privatized.
No, I understand that. And that's why he was partly maybe a mistake.
Yeah.
Now it's like Cyril's back. This is our guy. Bro, carry on with the process, with the project. Let's split up Eskom into distribution, generation, and then you'll start privatizing. Already with Glencore, they supply coal. Already with his brother-in-law, they do the IPPs. They know Pravin come in. Pravin is our guy. He's there. They're selling the ports to a Filipino company. Now they're like, look, we need help with Transnet. You can't run Transnet by yourself, even with tenders. And at some point, I read an article, Glencore, saying, look, they're willing to help government with the railway system because they need it, because they transport commodities. You're like, maybe these guys are delivering on a manifesto we don't know, because the reality is for the majority of South Africans, poor black South Africans, do they want to own the economy? Probably not. Are they interested in business? Probably not. What do they want? Decent home, decent young education, and the ability to generate an income to get by. So don't worry them about state-owned. Let's privatize. Let's feed them, because maybe robots and those things are coming. Some of them will get jobs. The rest, we'll see them later. So maybe they're delivering. And we're the ones that are missing it, because it's happening in front of our eyes. You can't be shaking hands saying we have just sold 51 rand for SAA.
But what are we doing? What are we doing about it? Because that's.
But what would we want to do about it?
No. But it's our money. We in fact they account to us, And that's one of the things I think we are missing out. And for me,
they are supposed to account for us.
And coming back to Julius, it's unfortunate that during the Zuma era, the EFF was so vocal to the extent that they could destabilize the country and destabilize parliament, just on an assumption that Zuma was captured, because he might have been captured, but he was still innocent because he was not found guilty. But
officially on paper.
Yes, but all these political parties.
Cyril is also innocent of Phala on paper.
Yes, and coming back to that.
Sorry,
Cyril,
you speak about Julius and the
no,
EFF.
Yeah. Okay, I'll come back
My
to.
apologies.
Yeah, it's fine. So Julius was able to mobilize. I mean, the EFF was known to be always disrupting in parliament because Zuma was corrupt. Where is the EFF now when all these SOEs are being sold? Are you telling me that they're waiting for parliament to be re-elected and they will do something? I mean, where is UDM? Where are all the people who were marching? Because everything and
Save South Africa.
But that the Save South Africa guy, he was taken to MTN where Cyril was. He was given a chairpersonship position.
Nice.
Yes.
I like it.
Yeah,
he was rewarded.
Paid. Yeah, he was paid.
Good things are gonna come to me.
Yes, but then let's come to this where you speak about Phala. Now, yesterday, City Press, there's an article saying that the majority of ANC leaders.
So yesterday was the 3rd of March, 2024.
Yes.
Depending on when this episode comes out.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah.
So the City Press says that close to 91 or so, 94 ANC leaders were flagged by the ANC Integrity Committee for state capture. However, these are the very ANC members who voted in parliament to save Ramaphosa. They voted in parliament to impeach Hlophe. They voted in parliament to impeach the public protector. How do you then, as Reverend Frank Chikani, say that these people do not have any integrity when these people were in parliament? And for me, I think that's an argument that could be used to say that, no, but these people, if the ANC itself can say that these people are unethical, then you must reverse the decisions that were made in parliament, because these decisions were made by people.
Those people.
Yes, yes. But here's the funny thing. These are the people who saved Cyril in parliament. Yet, when it comes to Lutula House and them returning back to parliament, his people are saying
unethical.
Yes, now they are unethical,
and they are no longer of use.
Yes, because his people don't want, your Paul Mashatile. They don't want your Zweli Mkhize. They want the new guys. They want Songezo Zibi. They want your Musima Emani. They want to deep John Steenhuisen. So they want to create this new democracy, which will have this mini, a flattened type of ANC, which is not assumed to be radical. So you must get rid of all these people. But the very people defend the ANC in parliament. They defend their president in parliament. So
the ANC makes me tired, I won't lie. And I'd actually like to sit with some of the ANC leaders, because some people accuse me of being an ANC basher. Sometimes they accuse me of being EFF bashers.
Do you think they even see what's happening in this country? Do you think they are, they are aware to the poverty, the levels of poverty, the levels of negative pathologies? Penuel, it's so sad if you look at teenagers in the township. They're being killed by drugs. They're being killed by alcohol, correct. Teenage pregnancy. Boys are depressed on a daily basis. More boys die, and I've raised it so many times. They don't care, but they are oblivious to the condition of a black child. All they want from black people is their vote. And one wishes that at some point they'll be able to say, wow, okay, we have stolen. It's enough now.
Do you think black people are worth saving? The same people that call us names on social media, the same people that vote for these leaders and mobilize with them, the same people that hijack us, mug us. When we try to educate them, they call us clever blacks. They see us as better than Mazama. A lot of black people are trying to get out of the townships because they're like, these places are like concentration camps. Even when I have a business idea, I don't get supported. People would rather support foreign-owned spaza shops, but then pretend like they hate them. But they won't support me. And as soon as they have a little bit of money, they look down on the same township school, on the same clinics where they were born. And they want to get themselves as far away from us as possible. So we stay behind, we take the drugs, we drink the alcohol, we have a lot of casual sex and spread STIs. That's who we are. Why do you want to say
it's not who we are. Remember that we are products of a democracy by the ANC, which gave us civil liberties. They just gave us civil liberties. And those liberties included us, and I've said this before, being promiscuous. Today you can sleep.
It's your body. You have agency.
Oh, yes.
You can do what you want.
It's my body. Indoda inja. We call our... But remember, black men are our children. We give birth to them.
Yeah.
We raise them. Then after we raise them, we call them dogs.
When it suits you,
yes.
Men are trash.
Yes, men are trash.
But you gave birth to them and you raised them. Mostly without a father, so they were products of you.
Yeah, but all I'm trying to say is what you see is what the ANC created. So you cannot blame a people who have not been shaped to move into a particular direction. Black people have not been shaped. They were just thrown into, into this new dispensation, which gave them everything but did not give them some aspect of spirituality,
Dignity.
Yes, and dignity. And they did not tell a man that this is your position, this is your role. A black boy, your role is to lead, is to teach, is to protect, is to carry your sister. To the extent that I see you guys complaining about black women, forgetting that the very black women were raised by black women, angry black women.
Correct.
It's just a cycle, know.
Correct.
So it's unfortunate, and I'm hoping, one of the things that I'm hoping is that because the very fact that we are not organized, especially from a civil society perspective, and I'm talking about progressives, not your Helen Suzman and all those Oppenheimer-funded civil societies.
NGOs.
Yes. So if we were funded, we'd be able to say, if you look at these drugs, Penuel, who's benefiting? It's the rehab centers. And it's a cycle.
They've become a new racket. It's it's like prisons in America.
Yes. So if you look at Life Esidimeni, some of the shareholders is your Joel Nechitenze, ANC leaders. So
you didn't tell us who's behind MK. I wanted to ask.
No, I don't know.
How? Now you don't know?
No, I don't. I don't know.
Now you don't know?
No, I'm sure that you...
Earlier you said, I know the people behind MK.
No, but may I not?
Oh, okay. Sorry, please continue.
May I not?
Life Esidimeni and who benefits from things like drugs, alcohol abuse.
Yes, because no one is preventing the drugs from coming in.
Yeah.
So people taking drugs, they get addicted, go to rehab, come back, take drugs. So it's just a cycle. But those who own these hospitals and people who own these rehab centers are the ones who are making a whole lot of money. No different to a 12-year-old being given contraceptives and not being taught about abstaining.
Yeah.
It's the pharmaceutical companies. So...
Big pharma is a huge one.
Oh, yes.
It's a huge problem in society around the world.
Yeah, so they're making a whole lot of money. So, no one has a problem with us making babies and getting money for SASA. I'm sure you are aware that all these companies, these retail companies, they get subsidies from government, from social development. They get billions. Now, you can imagine that, let's say this 350, you get this 350 immediately when you get it. Let's say you get it at ShopRite, which is owned by Christo.
Yeah.
You go...
Christo Visa, one of my favorite entrepreneurs.
Yeah. He's not an entrepreneur.
I love that.
We can do.
We'll debate him another day.
White people, who and Ntombi can brew alcohol if given the opportunity. No different to what the Ruperts did with their alcohol empire or your tobacco empire.
They were tobacco.
Yes.
Rembrandt.
Yes. No, but also SAB Miller. I think now it's called ABV. It delisted from the country. But what I'm trying to say is that all the...
AB InBev.
Yes. Sure. So all these negative pathologies that you see, they're benefiting someone. The very fact that every weekend people drink until they kill each other.
Yeah.
Someone is benefiting. They drink, then they abuse each other.
And then car accidents. So the insurance companies make money. The touring companies.
Yes.
I've asked before on social media, I think this was a few months back, if we fix this country, what happens to the private security guards? What happens to the police? What happens to insurance companies, of which a lot of our parents have their pensions in there? What happens to, at some point during COVID lockdown, there were cries around the alcohol industry. But there are jobs. I'm like, so we must preserve jobs at all costs. So what happens when people don't want to drink alcohol anymore? What happens when we go for organic herbal medicines? And we're like, no, I thank you for your grandpa and your made lemon. I'll just grow some lemons, some ginger. What happens to the people that are employed? And I want to circle this back to my issue with money. As long as we believe part of our liberation is going to require money, we're never going to win. So if you understand the money system and the formal banking system, which was formalized by the Rothschilds, the five boys of the father, and then today the Central Bank of London, and you've got the Swiss banks, then you've got Abu Saab, and it's even why this idea of a black bank. We need a black bank. It sounds so silly because they still have to abide by the same Banking Act regulations. They can't recklessly give you money just because you're black. We will always be held by a system that we don't control, where the value of the currency, where the supply of money is controlled by certain people. I went to visit Orania, and I hope more people can visit to at least learn about it. When you look at the data, and this is where Steve Kompela is right, Uguti, data is like a woman wearing a bikini, where you see certain things, but they're vitals. When you look at the data of Orania, I think on average, last time I checked, the average person in Orania was earning like 2,000 Rand a month. That's a little bit of money. 2,000, that's less than minimum wage. That's less than the average 3.6 that the average black worker has. So you're like, but this means these people are poor. I said to Dr. Karel Boshoff, who was one of the leaders, his father was one of the founders of Orania. And I asked him, what are some of the secrets and tips to Orania and winning? And he gave them to me, some of them. And they're going to come out in one of the episodes. Part of it is to minimize money circulation. So what they do in Orania, they don't have a currency, even though people like Orania has a currency called the Ora. They have a voucher. That voucher is not commissioned by the South African Reserve Bank. It's their own thing, so that they can circulate their own money amongst themselves. And then what they do with their real money, the rands, they bank them to earn interest. So they keep their money circulating. They're not spending money. They're not paying money for transactions and. That's the one thing. The second thing is, and I made this example yesterday around a domestic worker, a nanny, a helper. You come looking for a job and I say, look, I'm going to give you 2,000 Rand. And you lose your mind. Go on social media. Oh, this panel guy, 2,000 Rand. It's our own black people that oppress us. And I say to her, I'm going to give you 2,000 Rand cash. Number one, you fall under the ambit or the threshold of paying income tax. Number two, it's to minimize any other weird costs you have to spend. I'm going to let you stay at my house. Get your own room, the equivalent of 1.5, 2,000 Rand. That adds to your two. Now you're at 4,000 value. I'm going to feed you here. Maybe about 2,000 Rand a month. Now we're at 6. I'm going to give you access to my car and put in fuel. Maybe another 2. You're getting 8,000 Rand worth of value. On paper, you are earning 2,000 Rand. If we are speaking decolonization, of which the money system is part of serious slavery, we have to speak about how do we create value that is not captured by the money system. So if people are saying, Pen, I want to come work, I almost don't want your money because it means I have to pay tax. It means at any given time they can freeze my bank account or whatever they've done to Tutuzane or Iqbal Suve. I'm saying bring your labor, human capital, bring whatever other resources you can have. What are you complaining about? But Faith, I need money. For what? For food. Okay, instead of Umkhonto Wesizwe military wing, we're going to have a agriculture wing to feed you. Yeah, but we need places to stay. Okay, then we'll build our own houses so that you don't have to pay rent.
Are you working on all
levies.
these ideas?
Well, we're sending them into the universe
for
the future liberators, our future Huey P. Newtons who are going to get us organized. You have to mastermind the system. And I know this is like free game that people are going to be out there. And, Clem Santa is one of the great minds we have in South Africa. And he's one of the people that helped the apartheid government and others foresee a black government and begin planning for it. He was one of the people sent first to go and speak to Nelson Mandela in prison, or maybe under house arrest before they sat with him officially. we need to mastermind the system. And where we found issues where we are held, I can't leave my woman, I have to work. Yeah, but my kids have to go to school. For what? They need an education. For what? For a job. For what? For money. For what? For food. I'll feed your kids and give them a place to stay. We've scrapped all of that. So screw the schooling and screw the certificates. Your kids are going to learn hard skills. Every day they're going to fix cars, grow food, breed and herd livestock, and they're going to study in real time, real history and real strategy. And they're going to learn real business where in this country, for example, we speak about the Jews, but we don't speak much about the Indian Muslims. Those guys, once we've hacked how much cash they keep, how much of their cash is not banked, how much of their cash or their wealth is kept in assets, their stock. A car dealership has got 500 cars. Why? That's just sitting. It's so that I'm not paying transactions. It's so that at any given time I can flip this thing and make money. I will not keep cash because your cash is being eroded.
When they bank through the Sharia system where they're not charged interest.
There's Sharia system, law, which is religious. Black people have Ubuntu. We have all these secret weapons we don't know. Something as silly but powerful as a language becomes a secret code. When we are in certain spaces, Phapano Phasha munjani uyaphila. Sorry, what are you guys talking about? I know, I'm just asking her how's home. Okay, which is why some of these white people would also want to learn the languages. But then we come with this scamto and slang and tsotsi tal to be like, and you're like, no,
Yeah.
why is he calling him a dog? You're like, baba, don't worry. This is how we tease each other because we have the tools, but we almost don't have the
There are no laws.
masterminds.
No, there are no. You speak of the Muslims, you speak about Afrikaners in Orania. Even if you can look at the Hindus, you can look at the Jews. All these people have laws that guide them, and that's what we lack. We don't have laws or principles that guide us. And if you take quickly on Afrikaners and Orania, remember before 1994, the apartheid government did not allow gambling. You had to go you had to go to Buputatswana. Sun City. Yes, Sun City, for example. Sol Kesna, who was a Jew. And Mangope. And if you go to all these Bantustans, you will find this gambling, resorts and so on. Porn. The African government had to take the founder of Scope, which was Porn magazine.
Hey, I remember Scope.
Yes.
My father had Scope.
With the stars.
Hey, Mlochwa Baba.
Yes, yes. So Afrikaners took the founder and the publisher of Scope to court to say that you cannot publish this. We don't want pornography in South Africa. But they won in court. Alcohol. At some point, black people were not allowed to drink, including whites. And there were certain times which you could not drink. There were laws in place. You can agree or disagree with the system, but there were laws, and those laws helped society to thrive. That's why there was law and order. And you can speak about, we were fighting for Africans. Why didn't you fight against English as well?
Because it's nice.
No, because also...
No, you're very right.
Yes, you could have fought against English, but you couldn't fight...
But you fought against Afrikaans.
Yes, which is okay. But you could not have fought against English because those were the Oppenheimers. And the Oppenheimers were funding the liberation struggle. So you could not have fought against English. That's why to this day you can't fight against, the very English. But all I'm saying is, if you look at post 1994 South Africa, is a replica of the US. Who's in control of the US? Who's in control of Hollywood? What's happening in Hollywood? It's no different to what you're seeing here. What do we see on our TV? I grew up, in the 90s, 80s, 90s. And I was thinking that, the dramas and what we saw on TV, it was from novels, from black people. Yeah. The father, for example, of Paulo Jordan, there was this Xhosa drama, and then you had Mupeme, and you had others. Yes. So it was, if you look at what we saw and what we learned, and now look at
building content.
Yes.
Just like hip hop back in the day. It was educational, liberating, not what we have now.
Yes. So now look at what is on TV. I mean, look at the men. I mean, I don't have any qualms against gays, but I'm like, why? I mean, I see, a youthful, strong black man being turned into a woman. I have no problem with eyelashes and everything. This man is being given this liberty to sleep with whom he wants, but not economic freedoms. I mean, what type of system is that? I simply do not understand.
Can't you and I, because we're so smart and stuff, maybe we can also become like Ramaphosa, Just go make money and forget. Forget about all of these funny things. I'd like you to come back and sit with me. I think we have a lot to chat about. More than anything, we maybe have to discuss solutions and figuring out who are the right people to assist. Before I let you close, I'd like you to answer, we're blaming political parties and politicians for failing the people. And we're speaking discipline and laws. And you're speaking alcohol and drugs and porn. And my brain, and we're speaking about the Indian Muslims and the Jews. And my brain went straight to religion. Has Christianity failed black people? Because all of these things are there. And black people church. All those things of don't be an alcoholic. I mean, it's a sin in the Bible. We can speak about alternative sexuality, which is also a problem in religious scripture. Respecting your parents, maybe being hardworking, fornicating, all these weird things. They're there. And black people church. So has the church and Christianity failed black people? So you can say the politicians are failing us, but at least the church is keeping us straight. Because when we speak Indian Muslims, we're not speaking about their political parties. We're speaking about their religious belief systems. And then in the religious belief systems, before Christianity, we had various forms of African spirituality. There was discipline there. I can't go around and sleep with the man's daughter. From where? I pay damages. I probably get given a hiding at home. Nentombazane doesn't go around just opening her legs for umfana. We've lost those. They are there. Maybe the argument is to strengthen those and everything else will follow. And maybe we also, while pointing fingers at the politicians, need to point fingers at the kings, queens, chiefs, and the pastors and be like, but guys, you guys are meant to be the custodians of principle and value. If you can answer that, and then any closing remarks from you for today.
No, thank you. Look, I think what we must accept is that we don't have the power to define. So what we deem to be black and black institutions, they do not have the power to define. Now, if you look at Christianity and how it came about in Africa, and you read papers such as Making of a Slave.
Oh, Willie Lynch,
yes,
my boy.
Yeah, you would understand that the Bible was not brought here to educate us.
And uplift and empower.
Because, I've read the Bible. My grandmother was a Jehovah's Witness. I used to read the Bible for her. And as you rightly say, there are good points in the Bible. I've also read the Quran. I've read the Torah. I'm a researcher and I'm a student of history, So I read all these things to be empowered. But what I'm trying to say is the Bible was not brought here to educate us. It was brought here to enslave us. And if you look at these pastors, these bishops, they couldn't care about a black child. They're just making money. So I wouldn't necessarily blame the Bible. I would blame the people behind the Bible. But at the same time, for me personally, I wouldn't... Look, the Bible was used to take land and to miseducate our forebearers. Why would I associate with the type of product? Why would I want to associate with something that was used to kill, torture, maim? For me, it does not make sense. So it takes a lot to look at Christianity for what it is. And to tell a black person that, look, Bible, you can imagine black people are the only people in South Africa, or the only race, who go to church wearing uniforms. If you look at the Methodist Church, they wear red and white, which is the flag of England, and it's because the church was formed in England. And there are educated people who go to the church, including activists who go to the church, but you can never tell them about their church. because it's something that is inculcated in them, and it takes a lot for a person to be unborn and to unlearn. It takes a lot. You have to die first. So I think that's where we are, and many people are not prepared to die. That's why even now, if I look at society, I go out, I go to restaurants, and I look at men and women with their kids, and I'm like, we are gone. You said that, is it worthwhile to save black people? And I'm like, ilizwe lethu lihambile, because we are inward, we are selfish. Our black men could not even bother. All they care about is themselves and perhaps their families. So no one cares. And I think it would take a person or a people to come together and say that, look, let us try to correct. And I look at my 2 daughters who go to a white school, and they're so militant. They are militant. And one of the things they tell me is that whites in our school are not supposed to call or to use the word nigger. So I think we have an opportunity with the very kids that cannot speak their mother tongue. I think they can be saved. But with our generation, I think we are just gone. We are slaves to the system. We're looking for money. We couldn't bother. So I think that's where we are, but mainly organize. You don't mourn, you mobilize. I think
Huey P. Newton of the Black Panthers party in America was very big on get organized. 2 quick points from my side is, number one, I think even with the National Party, Abo Verwoerd and those guys, Abo Hendrik van der Bijl, it took a small group of people to fight for a larger Afrikaner nation. Even when we look at maybe the African National Congress, Abo John Langalbalele Dube and the guys there, it was also a small group. If you look at how small the Jewish community is worldwide and the impact they have, maybe the idea is never to mobilize a big group, but a small one. And that small group will hopefully build the systems that can hopefully benefit the majority. I am not religious, but I have built my own religious movement called Penalism. And I admire a lot of the religions that exist because I see the good in many of them, but I also see the bad in many of them. I understand that part of teaching black people the Bible, and this is where I have huge respect for language. We're going to teach you the Bible, but we're going to teach you the language to read the Bible, because once we have programmed you to understand the Bible and this language, it becomes easier for us to tell you right, wrong, what to do, what to strive for, etc. While you're still speaking your little jungle baboon language, I can't manage you. Same with a child. You want a child to learn how to speak so you can start commanding them. Don't do that. Don't do this. This is who we are. And they start being programmed. So we're programmed towards a certain outcome. There's a chance in a lot of these holy scriptures that even the people that interpret them, assuming they're true, miseducate us. One of my favorite religious characters, whether he is real or not, is Jesus Christ of Nazareth. The whole story of Jesus gets sold to people. This was a peaceful man and about love. And when I look at the story, I see a rebel. I see an activist.
Revolutionary.
I see a revolutionary who was going to temples, arguing with leaders there, telling them, you guys are misleading our people, who almost even went against his own belief system of Judaism to be like, this is not it. And he frustrated the leaders of the day. But with any good mobilization, he got 12 guys that kind of believed in him. And they went around spreading peace and love. And he was even willing to sit with the drug dealers, the prostitutes. And you spoke about people are not willing to die. And that guy in that story was like, look, I will die. And he died for his beliefs. And when some of us do what we do, we get criticized by Christians. You can't say this, you can't do this. I'm like, it's weird that you say that, because the core of your belief system, Jesus Christ, behaved exactly like me. He stood up to power and he said, you guys are doing nonsense. And he went around educating, uplifting, and the people of the time didn't like him. And I am more than you enacting Jesus Christ. and you are not seeing it. Because all you want is servitude and being a lamb of God. And you've missed the whole lesson. The guy was saying, stand up and fight for what's wrong.
And heaven is on earth.
Ah,
Heaven is here. It's not on earth. It's not somewhere else. You are God, you know. And I think for me, that's no, I am God. I mean, I am God. I pat myself on the back. Without me, I wouldn't be here. And I think when black people start to realize that they are gods and we are gods and you are kings and we are queens, I think that's when we're going to go forward. But for now, let's continue fighting each other, you know, denigrating each other and calling each other names.
Sis Phapano Phasha, thank you so much for sitting with us. This was a really dope conversation on Dope Conversations. I guess you owe me another sit down soon.
Thank you.
We're going to write out some notes of what we have to chat about. I think you have a lot to educate us on, and very refreshing progressive mind. I won't ask you now, but this is going to be our opening when we sit next time, who you're voting for in the next elections.
Oh my God, okay.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.